sent a request.
All right, so I'm going to ask everyone, all the participants, if you could please open your mic, or not open your mic, you turn on your cameras, because I'm going to be asking a few questions, and then we're going to throw it out to the audience, because I'm sure everybody's going to want to, ask questions and so forth. All righty. I just want to see all the participants, so I know exactly where I am. All righty. Okay. All righty. So my first question that I want to dive into, I want to more or less start with the framing the issue, right? Looking at the humanities and economic value. And this is for anyone really. Just feel free to open your mic, because again, this is a very casual conversation around humanities and and unlocking its economic potential. I wanted you to speak to any one of you. What does economic value means in the context of the humanities and education? Because we can think, we know what it means when we talk about the sciences and law and medicine. But what does it mean in the humanities? I see you, Colleen, your eyes, even under your glasses, I see your eyes raising. You're ready to talk. Hey, hi, Nadine, I see you.
Hi.
Yes. Colleen?
Colleen is readying up herself.
I'm readying up myself.
Yes, or Nadine, anybody would like to respond? What is it?
It's okay, I can go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Colleen.
I only smiled because the truth is that when we think of arts and humanities, I firstly like to say to people that I think art is what makes us most human. I mean, immediately when you enter into arts and humanities or humanities and education, we get into students getting transferable skills. So I think if we think about what it is that the program offers, or anyone who enters into the field, critical thinking, communication, empathy, creativity, and my biggest thing in the industry is adaptability. From a personal perspective, I entered UE as a literatures and English student. Most people would ask, what are you going to do? You're going to teach. And I said, yes, I'd love to teach. I don't have a problem teaching. But the truth is, by the time, what I was getting from a program like literature was really I call it the toolkit for any communicator. And it's the ability to tell stories. It's the ability to tell stories. It's the ability to analyze content. It's the ability to dig deeper into empathy, to have varying perspectives on matter, and to simply ask the right questions. If you prepare a student with those skills, then the student has big economic potential. So for me, the economic potential of humanities and education is certainly not hidden. It may be undervalued, but it's certainly not hidden. And in the way that you referred to medicine or law, that's quite obvious. I think we have to stop suggesting that it's a plaything. Stop suggesting that we're here to entertain. Start stating that we're here to change, we're here to impact lives. And I think if we go there from the outset, then we're saying to people, you will make money. I mean, further on, I think we can talk about the rise of the creative economy and what that means in terms of big figure. But I think the important point I want to make in responding to the question is that the potential is there. It's undervalued, but it is there.
Yes.
Thanks, Colleen. I heard you jumping in, Nadine. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm always about speaking to the youths. Interestingly enough, I was in a meeting today with the Indian High Commissioner, and speaking about what sells Jamaica. And it's really our culture. He said it, not me. But we know this. He said it, not me. He said when he was taking on the assignment to come to Jamaica, a colleague of his, whenever they mention Jamaica, they dance. Oh, you're going to Jamaica, and they dance, and that of course represents reggae, obviously. You know, they dance when you hear Jamaica. But to answer your question, Dr. Tomlinson, about economic potential, you know, I did not study humanities. Let me just put that out there. I am not a product of the Department of Literature. I'm a product of business. Business is my field, business, finance, marketing. Does this play a role in humanities? Obviously, yes, because humanities, as we know it, you know, is, you know, artistic creation. And if we, you know, if we talk about now, we can talk about providing inspiration, critical perspective. You know, those are the things that drive humanities, the study of humanities. By engaging our history, philosophy, literature, culture, all of those things. We know this, right? But where does the economic potential lie in all of this? There's an intersection to me with humanities and the arts, and it holds a significance in its economic potential. Creative industry, you have the film, the music, the theater, literature, visual arts are powered by the insight of storytelling traditions. And this is rooted, of course, as we know, in humanities studies. And you know, for me personally, with what I do, I drive and I try to drive the potential of economic stability with what I do with raw management as a practitioner of the arts, whether it is in theater and film. And I mean, all of this has its tentacles in music, theater, literature, visual arts. It has its tentacles there that we know are rooted in humanities. So I mean, it's, you know, like any other business, it's really difficult as an upstart. You know, they say it takes 5 years before you see any returns. But of course, with anything else, even if you're a doctor or a lawyer and you're going out into private practice, it takes stick-to-itiveness, they say. You know, there are going to be difficult days, you know, but if you stick to it, once you know there is a potential, then it will work.
And I can add to that. Business is sales, and sales is dynamic, right? And the dynamism of sales speaks to the ability to be able to show empathy, good communication, to be creative, to be a critical thinker, and have the ability to pivot on a whim.
Yeah.
So if we're going to monetize anything, then we need to first have those abilities, and humanity sums all of that up. The more things change, the more they remain the same. There is no AI tool that was designed without taking into consideration some humanity input. Taking the word humanity itself, you need humanity for AI to work. So the basic core principles of everything that we do is grounded and rooted in what it is that the Department of Humanities and Education speaks to.
Thanks, all right. Ryan, is Renardo, did you want to say something before I throw out the next question? Are you still here? Go ahead, Renardo. You're muted, Renardo. I'm not hearing you, Renardo. I don't think he's hearing us either. Okay, go ahead. I
Hear
see
me
you're
now?
unmuted.
He's on
Go
now,
ahead,
right?
yes.
Okay. Mhm.
Button wasn't liking my thumb, so I don't know what was happening. All right, so I agree with everything that everybody has said so far, and I just wanted to add that for the students listening, I don't want you to think. I've spoken to some colleagues while I was at school and some students after I graduated, and I find that some people think that your degree is some kind of magic wand. Like, I now have a degree, so I can get any job that I want, or my degree puts me ahead of everybody else. It might, in terms of your qualification, put you ahead of some people, but you still have to be excellent. You still give top-notch work whenever you are put in the position to do work. You have to show why you got that degree, right? So don't think that the degree is going to get you the job. No. you are going to get the job and you are going to keep the job because of the work that you put in, because there are people out there who don't have a degree but are excellent at what they do. So you can't rely on that degree to be your safety net. You have to go out there and do excellent work as well. And you will get paid in relation to the work that you do. You do good work, you get good money. You don't, then they negotiate you into the ground and tell you that they'll give you some free food if you do this show or if you do that, because they don't value what you do. So you have to go out there and you have to be the best that you can be, degree or no degree.
Thanks, Bernardo. It seems like everyone's response, while it was bordering on the same, there's a thread that everyone said. You all agreeing that there is an economic value as it relates to humanities and education. However, I know Colleen and Nadine on a personal level where they have, particularly Nadine, where she has left business, so to speak, her business background to dwell entirely in the humanities, film, story writing, etc. However, there's still this perception, there's still that perception about humanities not being able to, bring in that cash, bring in that economic value. So I think, Colleen, you started to talk about it, but you didn't finish. What do you think, why do you think humanities are perceived as having this less economic utility more so than STEM, right? I know I started off by saying, you mentioned, the language, but why do you think, even though we're still having successful, like, for example, Nadine, who's crossing over from business into the humanities, why do you think that there's that prevailing perception that, there's no economic utility, like there's just no economic profits from, now we're talking about people who have a humanities degree?
I laugh because I think you could ask, are you simply surviving as a lecturer in the humanities? Am I simply surviving because I'm in the humanities or I'm in the field of arts? I would say no, I'm thriving. And I know a lot of colleagues and friends who are thriving with their humanities degree. And I'm very conscious that we're not here to sell a program so much. I think what is important, because I could comfortably tell you that I didn't choose humanities because at the time I chose it, I was thinking about making big money. I was thinking about more of what difference am I going to make in the world? Who am I going to have an impact on? So I started from there. There is no reason why you can't do what you're passionate about, make a difference in society and earn at the same time. So we've seen, so earlier on, what I was going into was, I don't have Jamaican figures in what the creative industries in particular makes, but the UK have like their data out that is very clear. The US has that. What we are not doing, why people are not seeing it, is that we've not been able to really show the money in the field. What are the skills? So let us start with, what are the skills in the field of humanities? What do you leave with? I think the skills are always transferable. If you did a degree in history, cultural studies, literature, media and communication, the skills become so transferable that you are existing in spaces with people who did business. You can go to HR, you can go to public relations, you can go to marketing, you can go to journalism, you can go to teaching. In media and communication, if we break it down, there are content creators. Most of them are coming out of humanities. The editing, the broadcasting capacities are trained in the humanities. If we break it down to look at culture, there are museums, we have heritage management, we have arts administration, we know of education, technology in education, all of those things. If you look in corporate, humanities students are going in corporate to do training, there are leaders, there is internal communications, there's advocacy, there's public policy, there are all of those things that people in the humanities are doing. So I think if we take the conversation practically from exactly where the students of humanities are, then it's a good place to show where the money is coming from, because people are making money. And the truth is, I do agree with Bernardo when he said that it's not You just start, and Nadine has said it too. You start, you expect. Where I personally have seen the return on investment in humanities happens over time. And a lot of times for those of us who go to corporate or government, it comes more in your mid-career and not so much at the very beginning. So in as much as it's a wonderful industry to be in, and I'm speaking specifically to the CCIs, the creative and cultural industries, we must also be mindful that you're going to grind. Renardo is a musician. He will tell you he doesn't always get gigs, but he does get gigs. He will not always get, he didn't always get it when he was just starting. He was volunteering, and then he gets some. The bottom line is, Lisa, if we do not start showing what we're making in the industry, then students are not going to be attracted to it. Because fortunate or unfortunately, our young people of today, they think about the money. Their bottom line is often money. My generation, I'm 49 in a minute, may think more about impact and making a difference, and we take it a little slow. But the truth is, we also have to adjust the way we present our programs for the new generation. So I think that's really what, and I like what Mr. Brooks said about AI. As AI takes center stage, human-centered skills are the skills that are going to become on high demand because AI is taking center stage. So I just think we have to think about that a little bit more and perhaps stop pitching humanities like it's a competition or like it is the poor cousin of everything else, but to make students.
You have to, and you could throw this out to the others to respond, because that was similar to my next question. You know, how does this critical thinking, storytelling, how does this all translate into economic advantage in the real world? But the reality of it is, Colleen, and perhaps maybe Nadine or Renardo or Ryan might want to respond. The reality of it is we live in a competitive world in terms of our job market. It is competition. So it's not that it's being pitched as, it's traditionally, and we see it in a lot of universities now, I know, where humanities programs are being closed down. So when we see that type of, those types of actions being taken, that competitiveness have to be fostered, and students have to recognize that. So how do we, you said some of the areas, how we translate this into economic advantages, but how do we, like you started off by saying, I don't remember who, humanities is very abstract, in a very abstract way. You know, humanities is about integrity, it's about humanitarian, but how do we get students to translate these
Lisa,
into economic advantage? So I don't know if Nadine or
Lisa, I think it's very unfortunate to hear that humanities
it's abstract.
it's being shut down in universities. I think
yes, it is.
humanity really should be a part of every department in every university, and even as a matter of fact, start from the high school level. You know, humanities, in my opinion, and I know this is probably fact, that it develops your soft skill. It's somebody mentioned it developing critical thinking, how we communicate. As a matter of fact, our cultural literacy, this is the heart of humanities. I mean, I didn't even know that I was practicing humanities in what I do in my business, literally. And it's not the STEM. If I want STEM, yes, there is STEM, but I'm sure if you go to the STEM side of the world, they are using humanities, because even in the way how we communicate with each other, there is aspect of humanities. You know what I mean? How we negotiate. So I think students that are a part of this program or in the humanities department at the university are actually getting the practical skills and knowledge that they need to go into whatever field that they're going into. Because for us, we talk about like even the economic potential. How are you going to be sustainable? How are you going to make money if you don't have the skills to negotiate and communicate effectively? That's the root of it all. I'm sure our panel of persons here will agree with that. So this is the root of it. Is so on, I think what is happening now is that maybe there is not enough data being collected or or analyze just to see the benefits of humanities. I don't know if this is a fact. Maybe I don't know. I mean, I mean, I don't hear a lot of conversations around humanities. We hear it around AI and other things. You know, doctors, law. You know, we hear it around so many other
I
areas.
mean, we have to stop making humanities seem so abstract, as
I
Lisa
know.
is saying, though. The challenge I'm having, even with this conversation, is that if a student who is listening does not clearly get what is it that you're coming to a university to do, what am I going there to do? When I do history, where am I going to go? When
Other
I
than other than a classroom. So other than a
no,
classroom, where you're gonna go.
but Lisa, also because I'm a communicator and because I do marketing, I'm very clear about messaging, and I'm also very clear about framing. So when you frame a question as a lecturer in humanities, what are you suggesting? So
No, I'm not framing it in a way
no,
that
let me finish. Let me finish.
Yeah.
If we're framing the questions, I want you to say, Colleen, what are the areas that these students are going into? Because they don't know unless we say so. So when we say humanities, what is that? What is that? How does that show up at the University of the West Indies, for
Well,
instance?
Colleen, you don't know if that's my other questions, because we have to start it off as a frame.
Oh, but no, but don't take it personal. When
No,
I
no,
say,
I'm not taking
so
it
when
personal.
framing, no, when we say we're framing,
Yeah. No,
should
I'm
I
not taking,
continue or you
no, I'm
want me
not
to?
taking it personal at all. I'm trying to develop a frame where we're talking about the economics. So for example, there is a problem where when we talk about the humanities, there's this idea that it doesn't have an economic advantage. This is a real life reality about the humanities. So where I'm trying to get to is now, how do we challenge those perceptions? Like, for example, are you able to share examples where, the background of your background in humanities perhaps, or even because we don't have a lot of statistics that we're working here with. We're working with personal narrative. So how can we show the economic value in how humanities have created any innovation? Because even when we talk about innovation, it always goes back to technology, right? It always goes back to STEM. It goes back to medicine. So this is why we're here, for you guys to show us and to speak to the students. How do we use humanities? And when we talk about humanities, we're talking about various disciplines, because humanities is very interdisciplinary, but the students are not seeing how it's working. And that is why I mentioned it at the beginning that, particularly because I know your background and Nadine, how your background is very interdisciplinary, and especially Nadine, where she's coming from business. So how now do we translate that into economics? How do we translate that into marketability? How do I go to a workplace or into the workforce and say my degree is in literature, it's in history, outside of the classroom, and how do I market myself within those contexts? So that is where I'm trying to drive the conversation.
If I may, right?
Yes, go ahead, Ryan.
When I think about literatures, the faculty of literatures in English, I think about it as an old man with a stick. From the time I was there until now, that's the picture I get when I think about the Faculty of Humanities and Education. When I think about social sciences, I think about a very attractive woman. When I think about medicine, I think about someone that is brilliant, that knows everything. I think firstly, before we can start thinking about the economic value, we need to look into ourselves, the educators, the planners in the department, in the Faculty of Humanities, to make the space a little bit more attractive. We at Humanities, if you want a good leader in an organization, if you want a general manager, get a persons with a humanities base, because they are natural problem solvers and they will fix the issue. But it's not sexy, right? So at first we need to address that. We need to change what I call the old man with a stick viewpoint into someone that looks attractive. When we can fix that first, when we can pass the eyeball test, then we can go on to start explaining an economic value to a Gen Z.
Are you speaking of, Ryan, the actual physical appearance, or you're speaking of just what the name of the department is?
I'm
When you
saying
say not
as a
attractive,
symbol,
Perception,
yes,
perception.
that's
perception.
what it comes off as.
Okay,
Symbolical, an old man with a stick. It's
I
not
get you.
sexy.
I get you. And I guess maybe that's why we are here, to make it sexy.
Nadine, it is not unsexy.
It's not unsexy because
This
I'm
is not unsexy, and the point I was making before
Colleen
we
is
went.
here.
No, it's not that Colleen is here. It is
But
that
it's
Colleen was invited to speak
sexy.
about something, about a field that I'm in.
Yeah.
And if it is that we're gonna share about the field, I'm certainly not looking like I'm walking with a stick. And I don't think I've ever heard that description being ascribed to somebody who does literatures in English either. So when I talk about what we say and what we frame is really important when we say we're impacting Gen Z or whoever we want to impact.
Pardon me about the, it's not,
so-
sorry,
so,
it's not the
no,
individual that
Ryan,
wants to
One at
stick
a
in
time, 1 second, go.
itself.
1 second, please. I think what is happening here, I think what Ryan was more or less, Mr. Brooks was pointing to. is
Lisa,
perception.
can you stop trying to explain what somebody else is saying? Because I was explaining myself.
No.
And the humanities, what it afforded me was an
I'm not-
ability to
yeah.
be articulate. So if I may finish
Yes.
speaking, thank you.
Yeah.
All of the questions that you've asked are very loaded. And I think when I said personal, it was also because I realized that you think that I think you're not going to get there. But I just wanted us to establish what comes in the humanities from the outset.
Mhm.
And so you stop to go exactly there. So if I'm allowed, or if I'm not allowed,
It's
let
not
me
that
know.
you're not allowed, Colleen, but as the moderator, I'm here with the panel. I'm here to clarify myself or the other panelists. And Ryan did was he went back to the perception, because one of the question was, what are the
perception? Where is the data that says
No,
that
but his
that's a general
perception,
perception?
he's using his perception because it is true. Students tend to see particular
Oh,
field
okay.
that is associated with a particular image, where they
Oh,
see
I see.
law, they see medicine, they see STEM, they see these types of field as being very, I guess when he says sexy, he's just using the term to mean popular, to be trendy, to be edgy. So I think this is what he's doing, and he's answering the question that I was.
Okay, so I'm the bad one here. So good. I get
No,
it.
you're not bad.
What I'm saying, no,
Yeah.
Lisa, can you stop when I am speaking
Yeah.
and not do that?
Yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
Kind of find it insulting.
Go
So
right
what
ahead.
I wanted to get at before you jumped in, Orion, was the question you ask is, what does it look like? What does it look like? So when Ryan said it's the woman with the stick, who is the person doing the content creation? Did they study over social sciences or did they study over humanities? So I'm just trying to get an understanding from my own perspective in terms of where I have been given jobs and who I have interviewed and hired and where they're coming from. There's a particular thing you get. So the point where I was going, when you study history, where do you land with a history degree? Where do you land with a literature degree? So I landed in media, I landed in government communications, I landed in marketing with a literatures degree. There are history students who've landed in museums, who've landed in research, who've landed in advocacy, who've landed in policy. Where do the Carmack students land? So when we talk about the sexy, because there is a point about making things look sexy, but as much as we make it look sexy, it must also be true. So the conversation cannot end where what the students, I think if I were a student coming on, I'd first want to know what is it that you do? What are the jobs available when you leave this department? And outside of that, we can't have this conversation.
Well, if you're speaking for everybody else outside of the conversation, I wanted to hear from Ryan and Nadine and Renardo, because it seems as though what Ryan you're talking about is a kind of a branding. How do we rebrand the humanities?
Exactly.
So my question would be, Ryan, just 1 second. So my question therefore would be, how does the government or institutions better support the humanities as an economic driving force? Like, how does the government come in here in terms of supporting, because we always talk about money going into particular areas more so than others. So how those other institutions, including the universities, other institutions, training institutions, how do we support now the humanities as an economic driving force? So not as the perception as the old woman or the old person with a stick, which I understand where you're coming from, because it's not a coincidence that humanities departments are closing down because of the perception behind this humanities, that it doesn't have an economic value. So how does it, you're right, how does institution now, and I'm looking at it from a practical and a policy lens, so how do we now better position the humanities as this economic driving force? So it's not just something that you go in the classroom with, or something that is dated, because it is seen as being dated. So how would we better support that?
All right. So to answer Ms. Douglas's question first, where she asked, where do you land with a degree from humanities? You land where your passions take you. We all land where we want to be eventually. When you come into the humanities, you don't start making money as you done. We're not giving you a specialized skill to go into an environment and focus on one particular task. We're framing you, or we're allowing you a grand space so that you're not cushioned in a box. You can go and you can be whatever it is that your passions will allow you to be. In terms of how do we position humanities to become the powerhouse that it should be, like the STEM programs that we spend billions of dollars on, we need to ensure that from as early as the basic school level, we're encouraging kids not just to go on their tablets, but to go outside, to read the Anansi stories, to get back to that thing that made us great, so that the Japanese and the Australians and everybody want to come here, get back to our culture. That's what we need to do, to frame what it is that the humanities offer to everybody else.
Does anybody else want to respond to that comment? Or
Sure.
Nadine, you see your mic is open?
Certainly, the professions one could get into with a humanities degree are many and varied, and I would support what Ryan said about it. You land where you land, but I could speak on the creative aspect. Creative and cultural industries is open to a humanities student, whether it is in film, theater, publishing, or visual arts. Of course, there's media and communication, like what Colleen is a part of, journalism, public relations, of course, advertising, education, as a matter of fact, teaching, research, lecturing, so many professions one can get into with a humanities degree. It's actually limitless, I think. Screenwriting, creative writing, all kinds of writing. I mean, content creation on a whole. But when it comes to how the government can support humanities as an economic driving force in this country, I really do believe that is through investing in the creative industries or the cultural industries. I know we've seen that recently with the film fund. I mean, it's a talk on everyone in the sector now. And you even hear the students. I've been to the literature department, and even the students in the humanities department are talking about the film fund. Those who wanted or thought they could make a film now know that there is a fund that they can now get to make their film, which is great. So if there is more investment or grants or tax incentives, that's a huge role that the government can play to drive economic stability through humanities. Of course, there's also integrating humanities with economic planning. No, we can go there too. You know what I mean? Of course. This is now we're talking about budget. Like, of course, the development plans of this country we have to support it with humanities and how we can integrate the planning or economic planning with humanities. Of course, strengthening our educational system. I know that you mentioned a while ago that, you know, humanities is being cut out of some universities, which is just blowing my mind. But this is what we have to do as a nation to ensure that even at the high school level, you know, we are pushing the narrative of humanities.
Thanks, Nadine. Renardo, did you want to jump in? Was there an area that you wanted to speak to that came up?
Yes, I wanted to just point out that when when I wanted to start to do music, I was always asked, so you can make money from that. So how you gonna survive off of that? You know, people would always ask that question, how am I gonna make money from music? And as Ryan had said, the perception of it was not that it could be something that could be done easily, something that was attractive to do, something that you would be encouraged to do. But the perseverance, that's what I wanted to do. And I didn't do just music. I had to do music and other things. So when music wasn't paying the bills, I had other jobs where, I could get a check every month, every fortnight, whatever. But if you want to do the creative aspects of humanities, or the non-creative aspects of humanities, whatever you want to do, you have to stick with it. As Colleen said, you have to stick with it. You have to make sure that you're giving it 100%, because when you give it 50% and it don't work, you're going to be left with the what if me go a little harder, what if me stay a little longer. So I just want to say that if you take it from the grassroots level and encourage the kids, encourage the youngsters, let them know that, okay, you can develop into a artist, into an actor, into a screenwriter, an engineer. So many, as Ms. Rollins said, so many things that you can do in terms of humanities. But it doesn't become attractive until them see the big artist on the stage or the big actor in the movie. But it can't start there. So it have to start somewhere and lead up to that. So we have to encourage them from an early age, change the perception of the humanities courses, and let people know that, yeah, it's sexy, because you think that medicine sexy, but at the same time you're going to scream over Bojo, and you say, oh, Shaggy are the sexiest thing, or right. So we need to be able to let them see that it's not just about the other what you call now, the other faculties, that humanities is sexy as well.
Absolutely. Did you see? I mean, we saw what happened at Fontana today. I mean, that in itself. I mean, it would take a creative mind, and we're not talking Rihanna here. We're talking her creative team to put together a brand. And behind every successful person, you have a creative team pushing that brand. I'm talking marketing wise. And it will take some critical thinking. It will take some planning. And humanities writing some kind of a treatment to put that forward. We saw what happened today at Fontana. And trust and believe that humanities is driving what happened today at Fontana. And you may not believe that. No one believes that, because the thing is that we're not pushing the narrative that this is what humanities is. Because if I wasn't in this conversation here and hearing the different perspective and what is behind humanities, people out there not talking, oh, it's because I studied humanities, or it's because I studied literature at the university. Why? No, we're not saying that. And that's why I am applauding that we're literally talking about this right now. And I hope that we can talk about this some more, and we can drive home what exactly is humanities and what does that look like. We know what being a doctor look like, and we know what being a lawyer look like, but what does humanities look like? And I can understand why Ryan said what him said, because we don't know what it look like.
Thanks, Nadine. So you said something about Fontana, because that was a question that came up throughout the discussion, because there's a lot of this idea about creativity that's coming up. And it's making me think about the humanities, that what it looks like.
Yeah.
And I came up with a question about the source of how, and you talked about film, I heard the word engineer. So how can we sell, or can the humanities be a source of innovation in technology, design, entrepreneurship? And what are these examples? Because these are the three areas that are really driving society when we think about industrial design, when we think about environmental design. A lot of them require some form of technology. And of course, we know the business side. So what are some of the examples? And can you, like, I would like you to share with young people here how the humanities can, can be a source of innovation of technology, given that when we talk about technology, again, it's very much on the side of STEM. We talk about medicine, technology, design, etc. So how do we, can humanities do that? I'm sure it can. And if it can, I would like for you guys to give us some examples and to just speak to, ways in which, again, moving away from this perception of the old man with the cane, because these are realities that we have when we think about how the humanity looks, right? And moving away from the abstract, because we have to face some of these realities. We can't pretend that the humanities is fine and dandy, and this is what we're doing, we're humanitarian, etc. So how can we show, or what are examples of it being a source of technology, innovation, design, business? How does it play within these areas, the spectrums?
All right, so I didn't get any formal social sciences training. I started my medical services company uh, after being frustrated working in finance and insurance, and I had to write a business plan from scratch. Uh, it's just the other day, maybe a couple of days ago, I was going over some of the documents I had to write, and this is way before AI was even on the radar. And I think my writing then was much better than it is now, because I was exposed to Shakespeare. I was told to read this man's work from 10,000 years ago and then try to go into his mind and to think what he was talking about. So in trying to to write a pitch to, say, for example, a Nadine Rollins, to get some business, to put my medical service that was novel at the time, to allow us to serve her, I would have had to come up with creative ideas. I would have had to written it in a particular way that would elicit some amount of empathy, that would show her that her return on her investment would be worth it. Uh, Before Tanya Shirley left the faculty, we were tasked with writing, TGI had just come to Jamaica, and we were tasked with writing the menu, their first menu. And we, her students, wrote that menu, and they used it for many years after they opened. I'm not sure who designed the menu now, but when I went there, especially for the first 3 years, I saw things that I wrote, right? So in everything that we do in business, there is an example of what can be done. Somebody spoke earlier today about history. How do we use, how do we go somewhere? Say COVID came. Uh, it was a literatures in English person who helped to write the standard operating procedures that was adopted in the business process outsourcing industry. How you write the thing speaks volumes to persons accepting it. We're all storytellers in business. We're singing a song, and if we don't put it together properly, then nobody will want to listen.
Thank you, Ryan. Did anybody else have anything to say, add to that? Would anybody want to add to that?
Well, I agree.
Naveen, I saw you.
I agree 100% with him. I mean, I'm not a social science person. Like, I don't know if I could even speak on it, but what I could speak on is where technology is today and how I personally use it to advance my business and stay ahead. I'm participating in a workshop right now called Yave, which is a audiovisual workshop for producers, film producers. And there literally was a session on AI in film and using the technology to advance ourselves as film producers. I literally sat in sessions where trainers are using AI in front of us. And, you know, we shy away from it and say, boy, AI, you know. But I would say that using the skills that we have as critical thinkers, as humanities students, writers in this room, it's what we prompt the AI with, because of course, you know, garbage in, garbage out. We still have to tell the AI what we need and ensure that what we need is what we're putting in there, so that when we send out the proposal and everything, don't shy away from the AI. It is real. People are using it. And if you want to stay ahead, you better use it too. Because as I tell you, we are using it, but it's what you tell it. And we go back to what humanities is about, right? Critical thinking, what we write, how we think, how we empathize, what is it that we're giving in terms of what it is that we're feeling, the empathy for others or whatever we do. And so how we apply that to technology, it has to work hand in hand if it is that we want to progress. Right now, as a business person, I send out proposal literally every week. I'm sending out proposals, and it is humanly impossible for me to write a proposal or 3 proposals every week. It is impossible, but I need the support of technology in order to do that. And I need to think about how am I going to do that? What what am I doing? Do I want to keep ahead with everybody else, or do I want to be left behind? So it has to marry the technology and what it is that we're doing as humanities students or students of humanities. There has to be a way where it have to happen. We have to marry it. It has to work together.
And who is the we? So Lisa, I was listening to see what, because I think sometimes we're saying the same thing and we're all agreeing, but we articulate differently. Because from the outset, I think it was clear that one of the things I know I shared was, if it is that we continue to look at humanities in the abstract way you mentioned, then we're not getting anywhere. I think both Nadine and Ryan have somewhat brought in the specifics. And I just feel that we have to look around us in society and see what is happening. And I wanted to move to the question of what can government do, which is why Nadina was saying the who, because it's not just the government, in as much as I'd love to respond where government is concerned, but I also think it's those of us who are right here. And I go back to the idea of how we frame the tales about people in the humanities, and just ask that we think about it a little bit more and reconsider. I think we have a STEM model that governments across the world are promoting. If we shift to a STEAM model, or if we consider the STEAM models where you're now mixing coding with ethics, you're mixing data with storytelling, science with communication, because a lot of people don't think of public relations, for instance, as a science. They really just think it's a little thing that everyone can do. And so I think if we start looking at that and deliberately put the A in the STEM and consciously create the programs that is showing where the humanities come in. If we have some incentives from government for students who want to go into the humanities, in the same way we advance. So I just always ask the question, what kind of society do we want to grow? What is the society we want to see? So let us take out all of the humanities out of all of the colleges and universities in the Caribbean. What kind of Caribbean are we going to have? We're going to have one that is crime-ridden. We're going to have one that has very little discipline. We're going to have a lot of problems if we continue to say that these programs are no longer relevant, even if you see Shakespeare as a little old man, because the stories live on forever, because the stories are telling you something about human condition. It's the same stories, Nadine, you use in your film and in the theater. So I think that we have to look on, if you look on the economic impact, which is what we're having here, and at the start, so now for those who are just joining, might be hearing it the first time, but at the start we said so. All of us, I think all four of us, we have to start looking at economic impact deliberately when we're doing the report. How can we indicate where humanities, and the fact is, it's a department and that's what your topic says, but I would have rather we had the conversation from an industry perspective. If we looked on culture and creative industries, if we looked on media and communications, that way it becomes a little bit more real to the students. So forgive me if I don't say humanities and education so much, and I'm saying CCIs, because that's where I am located for the most part. I'm also located in education, but the truth is, that is the industry that we would be measuring. And so my offering is really for us to reconsider how we frame the idea of what a humanities degree affords. I always tell people, think about what happens when we all pass away. When you go to a funeral, what do people talk about? What do they say about anybody who passed about? They're looking at the impact you've had on people, the impact you've had on the world. And so I just think that if we go back to what it is offered, and I agree with Nadine. Nadine said, how do you move the faculty of humanities, how that kind of become a cross-cutting faculty? So perhaps what we are reconsidering is how the courses are being offered, you know. So I did a degree in literatures in English. Maybe that's not the degree that students are coming to you for, Lisa. Maybe it is that the programs in literatures in English are being used for students who are doing integrated marketing communication to help with content creation and storytelling. Perhaps it is that we are asking students over social sciences to do some of these courses. So I don't think that humanities will never have a place. I think what it is that what is the role it's currently playing and how it shows up. So I would say that we have to probably think about that, because all the data is showing across universities across the world that the humanities are declining. You've pointed that out, Lisa. It's declining, but what are we doing with the decline? We've sort of kind of reshaped some of the things because we still want to offer them. But I think it has to be a concerted effort for university administrators, government, and everybody to just change that narrative.
And just to correct you, Colleen, this is a faculty effort. It's the Faculty of Humanities and Education, this panel. So it wouldn't be included, or it would be inclusive of Caramac, History, Institute of Caribbean Studies. You know, they're big on culture and creative industry. So it's not a departmental panel. It's a panel that is inclusive of
I'm clear. I understood
departments. Yeah. And I just want to follow up on two things, questions that I have here. One, you mentioned the crime, violence, you know, a bad society or poor society without the humanities. And, you know, one can argue that we already have a society that's riddled with a lot of the areas that you've said. You know, we have a high crime rate, murder rate, and we still have humanities and so forth. And I'm not saying that to be devil's advocate at all. What I'm trying to get at is really the way in which humanities now play a role within economic development. Like, so Nadine, for example, she talked about being she has a business background, film, and she's married all of this into this new way in unlocking an economic model. So I don't know if I'm clear, but I want you guys to speak to how can we do that more by interdisciplinary? Because we keep throwing around the word interdisciplinary as well, and our students don't know what it looks like. Nadine, I think you started to allude to it. Like, how do we start to create or unlock new economic models that's marrying these different disciplines together? Because I sat here, you said you had to use your technology, your film person. I know you do theater as well. And this is open to everyone as well, because I know Renardo is also artist and he's also into other areas. So can we move towards discussing this, unlocking this new economic model and marrying this kind of collaborative ways in which we interweave together different disciplines within the humanities or even outside of the humanities, because that's another thing. We don't want to sound incestuous, like it's just about the humanities marrying the humanities, but even how do we bring in soci? How do we talk about technology? So go ahead, whoever wants.
No, it's just a clarity.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, because I thought I understood what you had asked originally. And so my own offering was that I'm not necessarily a curriculum specialist. But I think the basic idea that when a student comes to in high school, we say to our students that math, English, in some instances, literature and history are compulsory. And when you come to the university, you have to do college math, you have to do a basic writing course. And how you shape those kinds of programs is really the department sitting together or faculties coming together to say, how can we get our students to do their core subjects, but are also moving across different over in humanities to get the other subjects that we do not offer. And so, I mean, if we realistically look at what CARMAC is, I'm a CARMAC grad. So if we look at what CARMAC does with the Integrated Marketing Comms program, and you look at what social sciences does with their marketing degree, there are some overlapping, there are some overlaps. Over in humanities, however, we love to say that we're doing the softer side, we're highlighting the PR, we're highlighting communication, while marketing in social sciences doing the hardcore sell. And I think so if we've gone around the room and we've said all of the things that answers the question, it is really how we actually get that. So when a student comes in and you give them their, what do you call that? Your course profile, like your sheet that tells you everything that you must do to get this 90 credit at the end of your program. What are the courses that are there that you're sure are going to bring in the communication, that are going to bring in the creativity, that are going to bring in the empathy skills and adaptability? What are the courses that humanity offers that will do so? There are some. I personally think that there are students who want to go and do lit in English or film, or there are students who want to do that, because we can't all go in business, nor can we all go in medicine. Because we're not trying to create sick people so that they go to the doctor all the time. We want to create healthy people. So for me, I go back to the question, what type of society do we want? So I know what the topic is, and I don't think I'm disregarding that we're looking at the economic potential. But I do think that we've proven as people who coming out of humanities, of people who may not have done courses in humanities, but are working in the field that we consider humanities and education, like Nadine and perhaps Ryan to a lesser extent, who are now using the skills acquired, using the content you get in the departments to make a living. I was the director of marketing at Edna Manley College. So I can tell you how difficult it is to convince parents in Jamaica that an arts degree is a viable degree. I can tell you a lot of stories about how students come and they have to self-fund because we don't have the confidence. Yet, when COVID happened, what did we fall into? We fell into the arts. We were all stuck at home listening to music, watching a good film. And so sometimes I tell people, close your eyes and imagine the world without these things that we think are not important. So yes, Ryan, the people who are at Fontana this morning are people from the humanities or have that kind of sensibility because they are the storytellers. They are the ones who are analyzing data. They are the ones who are your influencers, and they do understand the value of it. If it is that we don't get behind these programs and stop putting it, it's almost like we have a little classist attitude to what you do. And when you look at, so if we look, you remember on social media a few weeks ago, there was a job at GIS advertising for a social media content developer. Do you all remember that? It was probably the most popular conversation of how big the money was for a government entity. It was like almost $7 million, and people were complaining that how can they get so much for social media? We know why they're getting so much, because communication has shifted. It has shifted from traditional, it has shifted from trying to engage people directly to now talking to people on social media, using digital platforms. And so jobs are changing. So if we look at what the society is demanding, then we know the answers as a humanities and education department. We know exactly what to offer to make it viable for the students who are coming in.
Thanks, Colleen. And just like what everybody has been reiterating, we have to go with the shift. And this is what the shift is moving towards: humanities, making it more, not just a viable, but viable in terms of an economic wise and attractive, sexy, as Ryan says, branding it for students, young people, because we know nowadays, young people, even a full-time job doesn't even occur to them. I was speaking to someone today who spoke about, her son wanting to work part-time because he recognizes in this new world, working part-time, you could make the same amount of money as full-time. So these are the shifts that we have to make within the humanities. So I'm going to end my questionnaire here, and I'm going to open up the floor to the audience, the virtual audience. I'm sure you have questions. We have about 20 minutes remaining, so I'm going to ask you, not silencing anyone, I'm going to ask you to keep your questions short and your comment short. So I'm going to open up the floor, and you're all welcome to participate. If you want to put the question in the chat box, Dr. Gentles will be happy to
Yes.
read it. Thanks, Dr. Gentle. And if you want to open up your mic, raise your hand, please do so. So I'm going to throw it out to the virtual audience now. Go ahead.
Caroline Dyche has a question.
Yes, that's me. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I actually put a long comment in the
Oh,
chat a
okay.
while ago, but since you have opened it up, because I'm gonna have to run out. Okay, a couple of things came to mind. I really heartily endorse a lot of what has been said here, in terms of the whole business of trying to improve the connections, the interconnections, the collaboration between our faculty and other faculties in terms of what is being done. I have put in the chat something. I'm from the language section of the Department of Language, Linguistics, and Philosophy, and I have mentioned collaboration that we have with the certainly with the Faculty of Engineering via technical writing and technical communication, and also with the Department of Chemistry in terms of speaking and writing across the curriculum, which is really helping them more within the actual academic space. But my observation over the last couple of years, especially post-COVID, is that students, the identity of students is one in which they're not just students, but they're also entrepreneurs. And the students are asking more and more, okay, for our degree programs to be directly relevant to the working world. In fact, over this last week, we were doing they were doing the persuasive speech examination, and we had 4 students in 2 classes who were doing it on why we don't need university. Okay, why why they don't, it's not meeting their needs in terms of, and they were specifically addressing the part about how is it helping me to make money, either now or in the future, in terms of my the whole business of their economic prospects. And they doubled down on that when I said to them, traditionally the university is there to expand, to develop your intellect. It's higher education in terms of you have a set of people who have come out and they have critical thinking skills and all of that. But of course, we know that has changed significantly. So, yes to all that was being said in terms of, being much more explicit and forceful about what we offer in the humanities in relationship to work and to prosperity. Can I say that? All right. So yeah, but I want to say that apart from that, there are efforts in the faculty, oftentimes unrecognized, to get students from outside of the faculty to be coming and doing courses that, you know, language, certainly the language courses, language and ethics, technical writing, public speaking, we have about 5 or 6. We actually now have a minor in speech and writing, and we are getting good, you know, support from students outside of the faculty who see the value in terms of doing those. But we need to be much more energetic in promoting these courses, and we need to align them more closely with what you, I mean, we know that there's a whole business of the commodification of higher education. It's seen as a commodity, and that's how, you know, we have to, I think, identify it as such. And then when they come for the commodity, we also give them, you know, the traditional humanities values that we, you know, we really endorse, and we feel that to be a full human being, the type of human we want, that is not going to, you know, be in a society that is characterized by violence and all of the problems we have, you know, what we can offer from that perspective. So that's my reaction.
I think the university needs to push that even stronger than before. It needs to happen. You know, one of the things I also say, I mean, when I attended UTech, well, I was there when it was cast, and then I did I did my postgrad when it became UTech. But you know, one thing that I say to people too, I mean, we all are entrepreneurs, but I say when school used to have work and travel program, or you get on the job training, I think as students, it's so important to get out into the world of work, like the structure of what we know the workplace is. Because what that also do, it positions you in a way where you can run your own business operationally, sustain it in terms of how you do rank and file, everything. Because a lot of students who believe that, yes, I'm just going to be an entrepreneur and run my own business, don't understand how business structure work in terms of even registering your business, the banking part. I mean, there's so many components that are associating in running a business. And the only way you're going to learn that is if you're a part of some kind of business structure, one that is established. And
Lisa,
so you can know how it works so that you can fashion that and run your own business. I did that for 20 years, and I know that is why I'm a successful entrepreneur right now. And I can say that with pride. I was in corporate for 20 years, and I'm telling you, I was miserable for half of it, but I am thankful for doing it, because what I do now with raw management is what I learned there.
Lisa, I was going to say, as Nadine was speaking, that one of the things that I have to recognize, I did say that my first degree was in Lit in English. I was a proper student because there's no opportunity for collaboration for the most part. I didn't recall in undergrad having group projects, you know, like how the other departments over social science would be having group projects until I got to Carmack. We didn't do internships in the department. So perhaps one of the things we can consider, as Nadine is suggesting, is how we throw these students who are the traditional humanities programs, the Lit in English, the history, linguistics even, Caroline, how do you throw them into the world of work for them to understand the role they play at work?
Yes.
I take my students out in the field. I will take them because I want them to experience, for instance, public diplomacy versus corporate PR versus entertainment PR. And when they get there, they're saying, oh, I can use my communication degree to work at an embassy, to foreign affairs. So I do agree wholeheartedly with Nadine in terms of the internship opportunities, somehow taking that and putting it into these programs that we call softer programs is perhaps one of the ways to really introduce the students to the world of work and for them to see the potential of this degree.
Yeah.
Thanks, Colleen. I'm just looking. Carol, are you seeing any more comments?
No, I'm not
No.
seeing any more. I would encourage people not to be shy. We have a lot of participants, and I think there must be some questions that
We have 10 more minutes. Yeah.
someone would like to ask.
I wanted to say, Lisa, because you told me we were going to have some fun. So I want to say that the career I chose, has really been fun, and it has really enriched my whole life. So music has taken me all over the world, even though I'm not on stage. And so there are many opportunities in terms of, and there are also opportunities in terms of, you could do things that is going to make you buy a house. You might not buy the house the traditional way and go a bank and mortgage, because they might think say it's not a serious degree. But the fact is that I have seen Carrie Ann Henry, who is the ballet mistress for NDTC. I remember listening to her in a panel once, and she said, Lion King, buy me house. And when she said so, it was like a kind of aside. But when she said that, I understood that what she's saying is that I bought my house with my dance degree, with my dance ability. Sean Paul is driving the car when I want to drive around at the place, one of 3 in Jamaica, with he has a degree from UTech, I gather, but he's working in an industry that we call soft, that we are saying is not showing results. And if you look at all the times, I went to get t-shirt today, Ryan, somewhere. And the lady said when the Bob Marley's One Love came out, she couldn't find t-shirts. Everybody wanted one. So you see, when people start to pretend that the humanities not add value, just tell them to look around them. Tell them to close their eyes and imagine not having music to listen to. Imagine not having a movie to go and watch, a book to read, your house without all of the fancy decor that you have. And that is really what humanities and education or careers in the arts is really doing for you. And I do agree with the collaborative approach, but I also think that we have to also say to students who want to do the traditional degrees in this in English that you can. And Lisa, when I look at some of what I see from Lit in English, and I pick on your department because you're in that department, the truth is that I see a lot of changes. There is a concentration on film. So you are also moving with the trend. So that we have to acknowledge where the university is also recognizing that jobs have changed, that people's attitudes have changed. And so they're also changing with it. Cultural studies is probably one of the sexiest departments in humanities. All of my hot friends them in the field who are make big money going to cultural studies because they want to know, put a value to what they're doing by getting a degree, because people do value a degree. In as much as they might say it's not quick money, there is a value to doing degree. We know the value of education. I don't think we need to be convincing anybody about the value of education. I think universities and look at recruitment patterns. Are we doing it right? How do we engage our students? When I go to college fairs and I look at something from SCAD, is perhaps my best collateral material university. Their material looks sexy. Students are going to pick it up and read it because they've made it sexy. We don't really make it sexy here. So for me, we have to also look at our recruitment patterns. Are we really, as recruiters, into these fields? Are marketing departments pausing to understand their audience? Was a good listener. So are our marketing comms department really listening to our audiences? What is it? So what Ryan said, them see this image of an old man with a stick. I think I'm sexy. So put me on your flyer then.
I'm even more sexy, Colleen.
Put the people, I'm just joking around, but the truth is that put the people who are looking sexy, who appeal to them on the flyers. Don't put the fuddy-duddy like me if you think I'm a fuddy-duddy. Put the people, who is your primary target as a university? It's not mid-career professionals. It's your young 17 to 21-year-olds. So if we start there with our target and then shape our messages and using the channels where they are, you know, they're not on Facebook, for instance. Use those channels where they are to get to them, bearing in mind that offshore universities are competing with us. And so for me, it is a lot of work. Government wanna do, wake up. You want softer society, then start investing some of the degrees. Why don't we have 100 scholarships to those? Give out some scholarships and say how much people come in the department. So if we incentivize it, then there are the answers. And the bottom line is we talk all the time to each other. But who is really listening? And when we talk, what do we do? So I always make a commitment when I do anything, whether it's with literature in English or the faculty general, I'm always available for any kind of conversation, any kind of document we want to write, any kind of marketing we want to do, because I grew up at the University of the West Indies and I value what I got out of my literature degree there. And I would love for every child to experience what I experienced with engaging text. And if you engage text that way, you're sharp. And I'll pause because I feel like I depend on like a soapbox.
Thanks. I just, one more hand I'm going to take, and then I'm going to ask Ryan and Renardo if they have anything else to add before we conclude this session. Carolyn?
Yeah, okay, no, just to say, well, one, I agree with Colleen. I also love my traditional humanities education that I got. I don't regret anything of it at all. I mean, I ended up in teaching, and part of it was they did give you scholarships where you went away on a summer and got training. So you did get that, even though you might not have been in a workplace. But just two things. One, I was thrown out to the panelists or to the floor in general. Are there any lessons to be learned from what is done at Edna Manley in terms of their creatives and how they position them? I know some young creatives who left there and have gone straight into their own businesses, etc. And I was wondering if they are doing something that we can learn from. And then the second comment was really just about the fact that what we need to, well, the entire university needs to have more males. But IMC is one of the draws in our faculty in terms of the male student. And I think that the males are also, coming in wanting to know how this is going to translate into, even I don't know if more than the females, but it may be that if we made our programs more explicitly aligned with careers and with jobs, that we might attract more of the males.
I'll take the Edna Manley because I recently left. I'm no longer at Edna. At least I'm declaring that I left Edna in December. But there's a small business development center, for instance, at Edna, who actively engages students with entrepreneurship. Edna's students are actively in industry. So like a lunch hour concert is attracting people to come and look, and they're headhunting. There is a little downfall sometimes because music students the attrition rate's higher there because the students tend to go because of where the money is, and then they're not finished. But I think too, with the boom in the cultural and creative industries, Edna now goes back on the front. The fact is, the School of Visual Arts, I think, at least when in the 90s, was what I knew at Edna, more so than I knew about the music, drama, and dance. So I think a part of Edna's current success is also where the world is going and the role of creatives. So people are making more videos, for instance, Nadine, everybody make one video now. And so with the content creation that is happening, you need more creatives. You're finding with the film industry developing, you need more of them. Does UWI need to do what Edna is doing? I don't think so. I think UWI needs to offer a program that matches Edna's undergraduate degree. What is the master's degree that you have that a student out of Edna who is so well trained, who wants to go and teach others, what is a program that UWI now has that they can come into at the master's level? And so rather than shape another, a first degree that competes with what you can't really compete with because it's too small. I think the Caribbean is too small for us not to be very clear about our specialization. Why is it that UTech can't focus on sound engineering, because you have engineering department and you have architecture. Sound engineering is a weakness in the creative industries. We know that, Nadine. I'm tired for hear pop down sound. It's the worst thing ever. With all the talent, sometimes we don't have no sound. So if it is that we really stop competing as universities and colleges and sit together and say, this is what me have over here, some over UTech, may have engineering, may have all of that infrastructure. I can build the studios and I can train the people to use it. UE is going to take those creatives who want to go out into teaching and do philosophy and those kinds of things and make it happen. I do think the collaboration has to do with our administration. We start there and we can determine. So we're not going into high school to say, come to Edna, come to UE. We're going into high school to say, go over there for that, come over here for this, because the world needs all of us.
Thanks, Nadine.
That's my answer to your Edna question.
Thanks, Nadine. And just very quickly before I go to Ryan and Renardo to wrap up, just to throw this out, Nadine, Colleen, but I think the ICS Masters in Graduate Program in Cultural Studies have attracted quite a number of creatives from Edna Manley, so it does happen, just to throw that out. So I just want to quickly wrap up with Ryan and Renardo, if you guys have any last things to say.
Lisa, Renardo unfortunately
He
had to
dropped
leave.
off again? Okay.
Yeah,
'cause I know
no,
he was,
he had to go to work, so.
okay, because I know he was,
Ryan.
okay, much
Yeah.
thanks, because I know he
Yeah.
was dropping on and off. All right,
Yes.
Ryan, you wanted to, any last thing before I wrap up? Any last word?
I was saying thank you for having me. These discussions are really interesting. A lot of innovation can be had from this. I'm not sure if it's still a practice, but when I was at UA in faculty, we had to present a body of work, especially for poetry. I draw on that sometimes when I have to stand in front of people and speak. So maybe more of that needs to be done. If it is not done, we can revisit some of what was done in the past. And the lecture theater was full with both lecturers, students from SOSI, students from all over would come to see our presentations. It was a scary feat, but it was interesting for me and for my colleagues at the time. But I thank you for having me. Very insightful discussion, and we should do this more often.
Thank you very much.
You
And I
never,
wanted to
you never,
thank, oh, sorry, go ahead, Nadine. You have something very
you
quickly
never
to,
call on me to wrap up, but me go should be in myself
that
anyway.
should be yourself, Nadine, should be.
I just say thank you for this opportunity. For the students online here, I'll tell you this. Upon leaving this university or this world of the university that you're a part of and going into the world of work, it is not a bed of roses as Colleen, Ryan, or myself will make it appear, right? It is for the toughest of the tough, especially in our economic climate here. You have to be determined. You have to be intentional with what it is that you want to achieve, and you have to put in the work. Okay, you have to put in the work. You may get up tomorrow and feel like you want to do this, and then tomorrow you change it. There's nothing wrong with changing what you started out doing. As I said, my first job, I was an accounting clerk, and now I am in film. So it may not work out the way you want it to work out. You will find it, but you just have to stick to it, believe that you can do it, never give up. And I tell you this too, get a mentor, get someone who is doing what you like, and put them into your back pocket or your top pocket, so that whenever you have any questions, whenever you need any motivation, whenever you just need somebody to scream at, they are there for you. I wish I had a mentor when I was leaving school. I now actually do have a couple mentors, because now in my career, I have mentors. So get yourself a mentor so that person can help you shape the way you want to lead your future. And thanks again for having me.
Thanks, Nadine. And just to very quickly wrap up, just to say the 3 points taking away, just to throw out to students, I think is very important because they are the ones that Career Expo targets. You know, take away in terms of humanities and just making it relevant is one of it is shifting public perception. I think that is a very important, significant, something that was very significant that came up today. So shifting public perception, the relevance, especially to the economy. And when we talk about relevance to the economy, unlocking the economy, it's not just about, you know, making money from the, you know, personal gains, but also how do we convince the government, how do we convince institutions that humanities can actually drive, it's a driving force in the economic development and also nation building. And then last but not least, but the unlocking of new economic models. I liked how everybody who is in different fields and just marrying over into different areas, that interdisciplinary nature that we talk about, and not just picking, you know, marrying outside of the humanities. So I think that came up a lot, and that is something that we also have to take stock. How do we go outside of the humanities and marry other disciplines as well? So I want to leave it there, and I want to thank all of our participants for coming out. You know, Thursday evening, I'm sure you could have been out, Colleen, listening to a live band.
In a minute, at 8
And-
o'clock. I'm right there.
Yes, and Nadine, I'm sure you could have been out at some film screening. Ryan, I don't know your gig.
Yes.
And Renardo, unfortunately wasn't able to stay, and also he was having
Because
some.
he's gone to where I'm going.
Yes,
Okay.
all right, so I want
Play.
to thank also our virtual audience for this Thursday evening for joining us, and the Faculty of Humanities and Education team for putting on this event, the entire event for the whole day, and the panels which are well needed. We need these panels, so thank you and have a good evening.
Thank you, Lisa.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks
Take
for
care.
moderating. Thanks, everyone. Have a blessed
Bye.
night.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Good night.
Bye.
Why is my cursor not moving? Lisa, message you.
Okay, I'll take a look at it, Colleen. I'll take a look. I wasn't looking at my phone.
Oh, I found
Yeah.
it. No, my cursor, no, it wasn't
All
moving.
right. All
Bye,
right.
bye, guys.
Bye. Take care.